Okay, if you're not on YouTube, you need to jump over to YouTube because we're going to do something different today. I've got a whiteboard and we're going to do some Pictionary. So I've got 3 topics, and maybe, Tom, you can also come up with a topic as well. And maybe you can draw it on
camera on your
iPad. Yeah, I'll just have to like show it up. And apologies for all the sound. There's a bunch of like clips on the end, which is a bit irritating that I need to remove.
So apologize. Just say it's ASMR.
It is what it is. Yeah. If you're into that thing, then you'll enjoy it for the next hour or whatever. Depends how long I take to build to draw. Right. My 3 topics, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw it, and then you can guess it, and then I'll tell you the story about it. Right. So while I'm drawing, you can fill the air.
This is all live stuff. So the iPhone 15 and 15 Pros only just come out, and the update for iOS 17 came out yesterday. We have to talk about it for about 2 minutes just so we can add it in the YouTube description to say that unboxing our first thoughts.
We actually had the most kind of like analytics like proper jumped kind of thing when
iPhone.
Yeah, by just mentioning the event. Okay, I have put letters in this, but let's see if this is okay. So I'm done. So this is the image. So I'll describe the image as well, just in case you're on a pod. So it's 2 images, 1v1. One person's got a mobile phone and they're speaking, and the other person's kind of got a desktop in front of them with lines on it, and they're speaking. And then at the bottom, you can see that there's like an A and B, and A has more votes than B. So what do you think this image is about? So describe what you see.
I would say who uses a phone over a laptop, but the speaking element is making me think of dictation of some sort.
Okay, and what about the I can't even point to the right location because it's mirrored. What about
A, B? One's a clear winner over the other.
And the 1v1. Yes. So what's your final guess?
More people use dictation on, I'm assuming B is the right to me, so the computer over the phone.
Awesome. That's a very good guess based on what I have drawn, which suggests that I can't draw what I actually want to draw, if that makes sense. So that was an incredible guess. So the story is, it was a 1v1. One person presents their app or mobile app or product, whatever. The second person presents what they've built. It's called Build Space. They do this 6 weeks program of some sorts where every week they have like a lecture or a talk, and then it's all like self-guided development, and they're working on an idea, building it out, and then presenting it on their demo day. And what this was is the final week.
So your Easter egg is when you said, I'm going to build this, you actually hinted about what you actually talking about.
It was accident because I read the word build and I was going to say draw. So they basically are a 1v1 for builders. And there was 32. So they had presentations for 32 players, 1v1, and they whittled it down to, like a Football Manager type tree of like final, like a World Cup
tournament.
Tree, tournament thing. And then it whittled down to the final 8. And then the organization, this Build Space organization, selected 4 individuals, all of which won £25,000 or $25,000. And then they gave a special prize to one person that they really liked in the whole process, like the MVP, most valued participant, not player in this case, or player. Yeah. Nice. So it's called Build Space. And I was really inspired by it because, one, it's low entry. You can just start something, you're building something, you're testing it, you're getting feedback. And what they were doing is flooding social media and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn with getting these people to create idea slides. So the slide would be like a heading and a description, and then they would critique the idea slide. Then it would be like, right, now you've got to do video intros of the product and how it works. And it's trying to defeat the whole imposter syndrome / just nerves, I guess, of biting the bullet and starting and getting yourself out there and being public, and then the community around that support each other. And I was like, such a great idea, really like low cost to start, and you could just localize it. Like before, we've said about like localizing ideas is a good starting point. So I'm like, if you could take that, collaborate with governments and universities or local councils to generate your own build space, which is a 6-week competition of sorts, where you'd have like businesses or whatever to give in some prize money. And prize money wouldn't need to be like 100K. It could be like even 10K would be like insane. Like give 2K to people or something like that, right? So yeah, I thought that was a great idea. It inspires me to potentially do something of the same, and I would do it in a way that's open source. That basically open source is that you're doing it so publicly people can see the documentation and the things you're putting together, so they can copy it and utilize it in their areas and spaces. So that might be something, because again, products are you can replicate products, but you can't easily replicate communities. That's the USP more so, especially because AI, the USP is more communities. So I'm like, if you could build a community of like builders, that could be very, very interesting. And then if you graduate, because they do these things in seasons, they've had 4 seasons so far. If you graduate, you get invited to their like school, and their school is like you get to build what you want to build in the school. Now, I'm not sure if that's like 30 people for 6 months or 3 months or something like that. I'm not sure if it's free or pay. I don't know the logistics on that side, but just this like first level entry to find like hungry people that are building stuff that are interesting, that would be good to be networked in and stuff. I'm like really fascinated by it, really inspired by it. I'm very tempted to do something of the same. Now, these guys have been going, I think, for 4 years, maybe longer. So like, question is, what would be the first easiest iteration of that to do in Flint or Conway or whatever? So yeah, thoughts on the idea. How would you do the first iteration? You don't have to draw it.
Yeah, good, because I don't have anything to draw with at the moment. So yeah, I think the tournament style 1v1 is very clever, and building a community around it. Is it one person build something from an app and one as a laptop, or was that for voting?
No, that just happens to be. So they live streamed the videos, and what happened is they played one video where they demo the product, which could be a physical product. Like some people were like, we're building a forest out in the desert. We're doing like eco-friendly wedding flowers. We're doing this mobile app to monitor people that have dementia. We have this like chip that can basically read brain waves, because what we realize is the best memory is brain memory. So we've basically created this chip or whatever. So it was a whole range of stuff. Like some people were musicians. I'm creating this album. Like somebody else was like, oh, we've made AI music. And so there's a whole range of stuff. And it was great because round one, it was all live streamed on YouTube. Round one, everybody's voting through YouTube to be like A and B to progress them to round two. And they had a video for round two. So video 1 gets played. If they progress, video 2 gets played, where they show the progress that they've done over the 6 weeks. And then they get into the final, which is like the organization chooses the winner. So yeah, it was like any builders, any projects, globally, like the scale was big, small, anything that you can do in 6 weeks. But I think some were like, I have this business and I want to do this feature within 6 weeks. So it could be an aspect of your business that already exists, or an aspect of your product that already exists. Or so very interesting, very interesting.
I think an idea that's popped into my head, I don't know if it links up or is a slight sidestep, who knows. But is if you have one presenter but a team behind you, so either you do a business versus a business, or you get different businesses partnering up. So for me, I was thinking, I know in Flint there's a handful of barbershops. So you either do a barbershop versus a barbershop of how do they build a community for Flint, but it might be difficult because they're sort of against each other anyway. Or would you do like a barbershop versus a pub just to see what different ideas they do? Or you get a barbershop and a pub to team up on one side versus a barbershop and just a shop to come up with an idea for the community and see what happens. Because I guess the difficulty is everyone's just trying to build their own empire a lot of the time, which is totally understandable. Rather than going, actually, is there a way that everyone can thrive by building a system that works for the community or for the town? But obviously it's difficult, because if it was a barbershop, it's like, I'm going to make my stuff way more cheaper and just undercut you and I don't know, do it in a clever, quick way or whatever, do simple cuts because that's what guys want or whatever. It might be tough because then it'll be quite cutting that one person's trying to steal the other person's work, rather than how do we encourage everyone to go for a haircut, because it is sort of mini therapy for guys or whatever. So it's more, how do we get a bigger, I guess, market, rather than just attacking each other's flock.
Yeah, and that's the benefit of having such a wide net of anybody can apply. Therefore, there is such a variation. I think they had like thousands of people initially apply, and they've whittled them down to the 32. They also kind of pitted together similar ideas in the round one. So round one, it'd be like 2 content creators, or a content creator and a musician. Or so some of them are quite similar to begin with, which then made it a more fairer vote. Then when it comes to the next round, it's a musician versus an app to like track dementia or whatever, like the impact of dementia. So it's like, well, that's obviously difficult. So I'm like, broadly speaking, if you have some social benefit, some external society benefit, you're more likely to progress through, rather than, oh, I'm just making music. Even if there is like, oh, I'm making music so people can meditate to, or people can listen to and relax because of, meditation is an important part of, or mindfulness is an important part of like mental health and depression and stuff. So I'm like, anything with some sort of like medical angle was kind of like progressing through pretty easily and pretty well, which is fascinating. So, right, should we go on to idea number 2?
Go for it.
This will hopefully be a bit easier, but yeah, while I draw this, you can speak about something else as well.
My qualms with was it continuous camera? So I've noticed an iPhone could be linked to a MacBook, so that's what we're doing at the moment to show off the camera. Now, in the latest update, the iPhone or the iPad could be linked to the Apple TV to use your Apple TV as a bit of a FaceTime thing. Why can't your iPad link with your MacBook? Because let's say you just have a better camera on your iPad than your iPhone, you should be able to link it. Yeah.
Discuss in the comments. Perfect timing, right? For those of you that are not on YouTube, there is a Wales-shaped island image of like Wales, and then there are
kind of Wales-shaped, or is it Wales?
It is Wales, yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying not to be too descriptive because I know that I'm kind of giving it away in being descriptive. And then there are 6 objects that have go faster lines next to them, which would suggest that they're moving in some ways.
So they either look like you're trying to churn up butter or whatever.
Yeah, we're churning butter.
Or they're
on the move
mines that are moving. Or they look like those, what are those things that float? Not dinghies.
Buoys
like
or something.
Buoys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those.
Okay, I can steer you away from, it's not churning butter. It's also it's not necessarily to do with water. So if they're moving with these go faster stripes lines and it's not water, what are they doing?
They must be flying.
So
Spaceships.
what's your guess?
Spaceships attacking people outside of Wales.
Again, correct based on what I've drawn. I'll then morph it into the story that I want to build in. So we know Oculus. Oculus is the VR headset. The creator of Oculus is this American guy that's now sold Oculus to Facebook years ago now. And he's started a defense company. He's realized that the best defense is having weaponry or like kind of tools and products and stuff that looks strong enough that you don't want to go up against it, enough to put you off from going to war with that country, right? If we, as independent, if and when, more so when probably, if and when Wales becomes independent, we will have to come up with our own defense policies and how we approach defense. Mm-hmm. And I'm not pro-war, I'm anti-war. However, knowing that there is a country that, let's say they want our sheep, water and wind, then how do we protect ourselves? We would have to have some sort of mechanism to look intimidating enough that we wouldn't be attacked. And that's all we're doing. We're just doing from to put people off, because we don't want to start. It's just purely from a defense perspective. So this Oculus guy, can't remember his name, has created a defense company, and they happen to be right now producing. So one thing that they won government contracts because, you know, in America, they've got the border with Mexico. They're trying to stop people from crossing the border. They can't necessarily create more officers, for example. But what they did is created this massive camera that could look out and scan for miles to be able to use AI to detect what those objects were. So whether or not it was a human or a car or an animal or whatever. So then they had this alert system. So they had these manless or unmanned cameras with solar panels that were dotted along the lines. So you don't even need to build a wall. And they won a contract with the Border Patrol people for that idea. Again, it's a positive thing. It's not a destructive like thing. It's about, well, you want to know people that are going from America into Mexico as well as people coming from Mexico thing. So it's kind of like a neutral idea with a kind of like enabling the Border Patrol people to have, you know, the same amount of staff, but higher coverage. So they won government contracts. Now they're into like building drones. So drones that will be able to be deployed really, really quickly. 1 for taking out tanks, 2 for taking out other drones, and 3 for like general reconnaissance, I guess it's called, right, for observing. So he was kind of concluding that, broadly speaking, the next area of interest is between America and China, with Taiwan in the middle. That sea, for example, if China went to war with America or America went to war with China over Taiwan, China would probably be able to rebuild their boats, their ships, much, much faster than the Americans would be able to. So we don't really want to go with ships in and fight with ships. We want to go in with something else that's a bit easier and a bit kind of like quicker to be able to repurpose and recreate. So it seems like drones is kind of like the next level thing that you'd be able to create reasonably at a low level cost to be able to be your defense mechanism, enough deterrent to put someone off that can build ships much faster than you, or does even have ships, right? Because I assume thing. So again, anti-war, but it would be drone security, basically, for us.
That sounds
so
really
critique.
Interesting. Yeah. I think when you're talking about drones, all I was thinking is like the light show of a. Have you seen Neymar getting signed to the Saudi league? And they basically used drones in the air to do like a big reveal, as if he was like some sort of FIFA pack on the game. Like you
right, when they come through the corridor and the cards flip, yeah,
sort of that
reveal.
Type of style. To be fair, so yeah, or like the fireworks in. Was it London or whatever? They had like a lights of drones and changing to different shapes and stuff.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Merging drones and fireworks is really cool. There was one where they had drones mimicking kind of like a transformer style head with like laser eyes, and the eyes would shoot lasers, which were basically drones lighting up in a line, and then would trigger a firework. Thought that was exceptional. exceptional like combination of drones
Yeah.
making a shape of an object that would be able to fire fireworks and then fireworks going off. Yeah. But just imagine if you literally didn't know about fireworks and you didn't know about drones and you saw that happening, you would literally be like, the world is over. There's some sort of like Megatron-esque thing. What's the guy that does the Silver, who's the Silver Surfer, like the Silver Surfer's boss? Is it Galactus or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Galactus turning up and basically
Fantastic
firing.
Four reference. For
Yeah. Yeah, the guy with like a fork, tuning fork as a head.
Yeah.
So yeah, carry on.
Well, that was just my thoughts of just seeing them doing different things. It's more, I've seen it, I guess, from a marketing point of view rather than from a deterrent or whatever you call it, to scare people away. But I guess it probably could work short term, and then once people knows it's just a couple of drones or whatever, it would probably just be able to sniper them out the window or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna draw the second one.
3 building up.
Yeah, this is I'm gonna draw this a little bit better, hopefully. So this is, I can't draw and speak at the same time, so you're gonna have to thank you.
Well, I was holding off saying anything because it sounded like you wanted to talk at the same time, but you
I was going to try, but I can't do it. I just can't.
You're like, I'm sure. I need to draw a little bit. So tag on it. So yeah, I'm intriguing to use the latest iOS 17. It's just loads of Apple facts in between. You can do stickers with live photos, which is basically creating your own memes short term. So I'm intrigued to see how that works as stickers, sort of animated stickers, to see if we could use them well. Plus, on a side note, I was thinking, I wonder if I can learn different drawing techniques to help out social media for my local hockey club, that I can take photos but then draw on top. And then I was imagine if you draw like a manga style Dragon Ball Z, you're running past someone and you got like the running lines behind you to make you look faster or whatever, or the question marks of if you're taking on someone, they're getting confused. That's the random thoughts I've been having, the creative thoughts I've been having alongside Apple event stuff.
Very interesting. Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm trying to like not have glare on this as well. Okay, for those of you that are not watching on YouTube, hopefully this will actually not be cut off by YouTube as well, but I've got two sides of a photo. Left side looks to me like somebody is there's a lamp here, somebody's like creating something on this desk. You know, there's a window outside, it's nighttime, and they're just creating something on their own. Then on the other side, we have like creating something. It's on a globe, so there's the world is here in the background, or it could be a football, but it looks like a globe because it's not even. And this bit is kind of like siphoning off to now like other people. Other people, and other people are now allowed to use this created thing. That's probably a little bit too descriptive. So give me your best guess.
Dan's practicing being a weather woman or man.
And I can't point to the right locations because I'm looking at the wrong mirrored screen.
So the guy on the left, I thought was cooking and looks like got one of those, you know, those sort of dish things that you see in Wok and Go, that they can grab whatever mushrooms and then chuck it in and then whirl it around. So
like
I'm glad you said a desk. And
like
lamp.
I don't even know what
it's like someone using a wok. But anyway, someone using a wok and ants boxing on a football. That's what I'm getting. It looks like two people are boxing and one person is doing a Lion King holding up his contract as if he's won money.
So these boxes are like one individual, two individuals. But I wanted to give a variation to show that it doesn't have to just be one person. It could be a group of people.
So whilst you're cooking, ants are fighting their way on a football. That's what I gathered from that.
So unfortunately, this one's not as close. It's not as correct as my as the drawing, let alone my idea or my thing that I want to share. So, person on the left is creating something at nighttime on their own, silently. Notice that it was kind of paper on pen, right? So that can't necessarily go anywhere. And whereas alternative plan is you create something and it goes everywhere. It goes across the world to other people. Individuals start using it. Teams of people or groups of people start using it. Now, I did drop the word open source in earlier on. And open source is essentially this: creating something that you are putting online so other people can access it, utilize it, modify it, manipulate it, and so forth. I've been thinking a lot about Insider, which is the Patreon meets Spotify music streaming app that we've been creating. It's been created. I have a version of it. And this version is for people that don't know coding, don't have coding skills, don't want to run their own servers and so forth. They can sign up and utilize it, right? So it's all my stuff. Now, it looks like Insider. Now, what happens if somebody, like, for example, a manager or a record label or whatever, would want to do a similar idea but have it customized uniquely for their artists? This is where open source comes in. If I create an open source version of Insider, they could copy it and modify it for themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the benefit of this is, one, I get collaborators, so they might not modify it just for themselves. They might push something back to me. So the core, the base version gets better over time, right? So that's what open source generally is. It's about collaboration. It's about building in the open. Now, typically there's a bit of imposter syndrome in there. You think that people are going to critique your code. So I'm taking the dive. One, I've done a couple of hackathons, and hackathons sometimes are open source. You share what you've built and you share the code so people can see how it's built. I want to go one step further. So I've basically started open sourcing, or I've created an open source version of Insider so people can download and spin it up for themselves and run it for themselves if they want to. They also can still use the paid, or not the paid version, but our version that's hosted if they don't want to do all that stuff. So the benefit of it is, one, more collaboration. The idea benefits because more people pour into it and hopefully collaborate with it. It's a profitable way of doing it because, broadly speaking, you would provide support and regular updates for those people that want to stay with you and don't want to do their own infrastructure. So there's still money involved in it. You can get sponsors and so forth. But more than anything, because we are like Patreon meets Spotify, aka the streaming side of Spotify, and the membership subscription of Patreon, those businesses aren't open source. You can't see the code. You can't see what's in there. And for algorithms and so forth, you can't see how it's recommending your songs to other people. So in open sourcing this stuff, it distinguishes, it makes a complete difference and a pro creator difference to our positioning. So Spotify not open source. Patreon is not open source. So we can say, we are an open source Spotify meets Patreon alternative, or an open source Spotify alternative or something, or an open source Patreon alternative. Now, there are open source versions of Patreon and so forth, but they've stopped being developed. They've stopped being used. So I'm like, it's an interesting way of creating something that enterprise level people. So now a record label might be like, cool, we'll take this tech and use it for ourselves. And also because of that, you'll be able to say, hey, well, our tech is embedded in these labels and hopefully they can feed back into it and so forth. So I've been quite passionate about it because, one, it's removing my imposter syndrome of like putting myself out there for my code to be critiqued. And I've always been, I've always felt a better designer than coder. It kind of then opens up to like more collaboration. So it's not just me. And I've enjoyed, committing stuff to other people's open source projects. Even the two technologies that I've built it on, Superbase and Quasar, are themselves open source technologies or open source frameworks or open source products. So yeah, I've basically started it. I've been thinking about it for a while, and I started it last night by open sourcing Insider. There'll still be a paid or a more advanced version So it's not as if I've just, sold my ideas into the internet and will disappear. Again, it's all documented into like something called Git, which is an underlining kind of like technology of like, it's kind of like a Google Doc with versions, but for code. So that's Git. And there's something called GitHub, which is where those repositories are stored and visualized, and you could read them and you can see who's committed what, which is a word of adding and removing. You can add and remove in a commit. So people can see that I was the first one to build this thing and I was the first one to do it, as well as other collaborators can see, they were collaborating X amount over the time. So it's all about visibility and you can see it. So yeah, thoughts on that? That was my final idea.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. I think making yourself different in a positive way. And I guess because you've had positive experiences with open source stuff, in the sense that you're using it, or the hackathon stuff, I guess you can double down on it, of understanding what you get from it, what is useful, how do you create feedback loops, or collab with individuals. Obviously, I'm sure there'll be some individuals that aren't so bothered or whatever, but standards to the internet a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But I guess you could double down on your positive experiences and knowing what you liked or didn't like, and hopefully we'll be able to develop from the systems that you've been a part of, which is definitely, it's interesting, because I think a lot of time people are scared that someone's going to steal their stuff, run off and make more money than you, and then your product dies, and it's as if they've sucked the only oxygen in your body and then lived for eternity, and you just died there and then, from a business point of view. So I think it is I guess, bold move, it's probably the right word, or brave move. But it's probably easier to start off like that rather than to switch it to that, because it is probably, you don't know how it's going to work out, but you could obviously switch it back, worst case scenario, I'm assuming, on some level.
Or stop developing on it to a certain level and then only put advanced stuff and all the extra things into the other version of it. And I think what's interesting is, like, in doing this like publicly, people can see it all. And I hope that shows culture and values. So again, when we talk about the music industry, generally speaking, the music industry is pro business owner rather than pro creator. And what I mean by that is artists typically don't get paid much for their creations. It's the business side, because the artist doesn't know business, so they'll get manipulated and so forth. Obviously, it's not all the time, but we want to create structures and things that kind of decouple that, like platform lock-in. Like, once you use platform A, you always have to use platform A, trying to remove these typical boundaries, which become then USPs. I do recognize that an actual musician won't care. It's more so for the business, the entrepreneur, the tech side of it. Those are the people that care, that are kind of like different people. It's like the back office, as it were. But again, if I can have a distinguished thing, like I said before, products, ideas literally can be replicated. There's nothing special about the idea as such. It's more so, can I build the community and can I be public about it and can I get known? Then it's more likely to be like, hey, did you take this or did you fork it, which is the terminology for like duplicating the product for their own version so they can modify it. But like, if you can go in at the baseline and use it. And also it might be that not many people use it in this mode, which is this self-hosted mode and fully customized and so forth. And that'll be fine, because what might happen is they're adding to it because they want it in their versions that I'm providing to them anyway, which is very much the case with Supabase or Quasar in some ways. So it's an interesting thing that I'm doing, and I'm starting from scratch, and therefore I can choose what I want to put in and how I want to structure it to be able to kind of like best think about it. But if there's anybody that's watching that runs an open source product or has experience in open source, would love to rack your brains, because again, it's like, I recognize I get stumbled on cool, there's 1,001 ways to architect this arrangement of things. How do I do it? And I'm like, you know what? Because of version control, you can just start one way, and worst comes to worst, you can change it later. You can revert back. You can do whatever. Like, just start anyway. It might be wrong. I don't actually know. I've done as much reading as I feel that I can in this period of time before I get to like the first decision. Now I'm like, cool, I've made the first decision. We'll run with this. If it works, great. If it doesn't, that's fine too. We'll revert back or put extra stuff in. So yeah, it's an interesting journey for sure. But it's like defeating the whole imposter syndrome of like worried about being critiqued for my code. And I've realized the more I've got involved, the more I've met some really interesting people that are like me and similar to me in mindset of like excited to build stuff and entrepreneurial and ideas and things. So I'm hoping that I'll meet more people of the same ilk, of the same type in doing this journey, rather than just keeping it for myself, building it for myself and stuff. So yeah, it's very much like a tech focused angle, but hopefully I'll meet interesting people because ultimately Spotify is a bunch of technologists, right? A bunch of techies. Yes, marketeers in there too, but broadly speaking, it's a tech platform. It's not necessarily musicians in there. Yes, they are the users, but so yeah, that's my third and final drawing for you. So there we go.
Fascinating.
Any closing thoughts?
Just pondering to know what we title this.
It's what's the game but Pictionary, isn't it? Like, we've probably got to put something like
iOS Pictionary.
yeah. iOS 17,
open source,
Pictionary
drones.
All the buzzwords. So yeah, if anything's inspired you, I'm glad. Like, let us know what has inspired you. Let us know what you're thinking about. Let us know what you're thinking of building. Like, just imagine you like
subscribe and comment.
Yeah, exactly. If we don't say that, nothing will happen, right? The whole build space thing, I'm tempted of doing something small to that as well. But yeah, we can come back to that one, and it's something for the dome, the Mind Palace, to process in the background. So, as always, thanks again for spending your precious time with us. Until next time, keep hammering those nails.